Good morning, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you for joining as we're about to discuss a very important topical matter. Now, this morning, we are going to talk about the situation in Haiti. Well, this is a continuation of our chat about Haiti and the precarious nature of what, is happening in that island nation. It is still unclear where president or the acting president, President Ariel Henry, is. It doesn't seem like anybody can say definitively where he is currently at. But I understand too that they have to be careful about disclosing his location as the Haitians are, particularly well, the ones on the ground, the gangs on the ground in Haiti, are determined that he can no longer go back to Haiti. But because of this transnational operation among gangs and their locations in terms of they operate from different locations, they might have extension of gangs in Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean. His location has to be kept in secret, and that should be understood for his own safety. Now, the fact of the matter is that it is interesting that during the so-called pandemic, that we understand that lives were important to be saved, and that one life, even one life, should not be lost. On the other hand, we have a doctor, that is Dr. Ariel Henry, who is a medical doctor by training. In fact, he is one of the highest and seemed to have gone to the highest level of training within his career, within his profession. I think he has a doctorate based on what we read in medicine. And also he did a master's in public administration, public health at Loma Linda University, among other studies that he pursued. So Dr. Ariel Henry is a very qualified medical doctor. The fact of the matter and the question that needs to be answered is, why doesn't he decide to resign? Why doesn't he step down as a medical doctor who is 74 years old? And the fact is that Haiti is now in a precarious situation, and the gang members and members of civil society are suggesting that they do not want him. They want to see the back of Ariel Henry. Now, if he decides that he will resign tomorrow and free and fair elections are held afterwards, it means therefore that the violence could be reduced significantly. So why does he continue to hold on to that position, given the fact that he's a doctor, and I think he also stood at the helm of the coronavirus pandemic relief and the treatment of that virus on the island? And the quest of the people who were at the helm of the coronavirus pandemic was to save lives. And right now, innocent lives are being lost because of political machinations and the whole quest for holding on to political power. Why? Why doesn't Ariel Henry resign? That is the very important question that we'd like to ask. And it seems like we are not getting any response. Now, we have the ambassador to Antigua writing a very important article this morning in the Jamaica Gleaner. Well, that would be yesterday morning. That was on March 9th, right? So that was yesterday morning. And he's writing about the situation in Haiti. And that's Ronald Saunders, Urgency of Internal Unity to Reclaim Haiti. And here Ronald Saunders, rather, is suggesting that in international diplomatic circles, Haiti is on everyone's lips, but not in actions that could urgently remedy the suffering of the Haitian people. So here is Ronald Saunders suggesting here, declaring that people are sympathizing with Haiti, but they have no practical remedies in terms of curing the problem and trying to remedy the situation that is happening, relieving the suffering of the Haitian population. He continues to declare, similarly, within Haiti and its diaspora, Haiti's tragic situation is constantly discussed, but no viable solutions are proposed, nor are sustainable actions taken. All right, and that's what is always the case with many of the problems we face in our world, that oftentimes we do not have any practical or viable solutions to solving these problems. Now, while this delay, he continues, that is Ronald Saunders, and inaction persists, the gangs, which have already taken effective control of the country, are fashioning an accord amongst themselves on the theme of living together. It is an unholy pact in which the gangs are sharing the spoils of power and collaborating to do so, ignoring the laws of the country. They are also dictating political actions through threats and intimidation. Now, this is something that the Caribbean has to take note of because, we are living in a region in which many of our countries or some of our countries are experiencing an uptick in crime and violence. And we understand that a lot of times the gangs, so-called gangs, are behind the rise in this crime and violence. We understand also because of the money laundering activities and these illicit transnational agreements and activities also, we are seeing that augmentation in crime and violence in the region. Now, what is very interesting is that Dr. Ariel Henry, who is an unelected official, he's an unelected president and prime minister, and he's functioning in both capacities, as we suggested in our last video, something that I find quite mystifying, that he would be functioning in two capacities, holding two capacities as an unelected official. Now, hence, let us continue reading some of the insights that Ronald Saunders, who is the ambassador to Antigua, the US ambassador to Antigua, is suggesting here. Hence, the present unelected Prime Minister, Dr. Ariel Henry, has been warned that if he returns to Haiti, he will be executed. Henry is reportedly trapped in Puerto Rico, unable to find a way to re-enter Haiti after attending a meeting of CARICOM heads of government in Guyana, and then traveling to Kenya to sign the reciprocal security agreement on March 1. While he was in New York on his way back to Haiti, the gangs attacked the main penitentiary, releasing approximately 4,500 inmates, including prominent gang members. So this is what is happening, that the gang members are determined that Henry will not be permitted to re-enter the country. Now, Ronald Saunders is continuing in his article. This extraordinarily gruesome warning to Dr. Henry has been made by gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, also known as Barbecue. It has been backed by Guy Philip, who was recently released from a US prison after conviction for human trafficking and is now heading a political group. Now, is this coincidental that he has just been released from prison in the United States and is now back in Haiti and has headed up a political group? That is something interesting. So I find also, I was reading an article from the Trinidad Express, which I thought was also very intelligently written piece and something that I would like to share with you, my viewing audience. And this was written by Orin Gordon, and the piece is titled Haiti Too Heavy a Lift for CARICOM. Let me see if I could share this piece with you, because I think this was a very well-written piece that came from the Trinidad Express, a newspaper in Trinidad and Tobago. So let me get this on my screen so that at least you can follow what I am reading. Okay, so let's get that now. So we have here Haiti too heavy a lift for CARICOM, that is true. And sometimes I do wonder if CARICOM has a role to play in Haiti at this point, because it doesn't seem to me that they hold any level of authority. It seems that they're just doing the bidding of the United States and the core group. And Haiti is against what the United States and the core group are doing. So when Jamaica, for example, and other CARICOM countries are suggesting that they are doing things and they're wanting to work with the United Nations, the Haitians are not naive enough to know that the United Nations at this juncture of its history is worthless, and that it is doing nothing to help them to come out of the crisis in which they find themselves. And I think that the United Nations is perhaps not trying to play the hypocritical game anymore, and that is why they're seeking to send not Haitians, but Kenyan soldiers there, and Jamaicans and other soldiers, because they understand that the UN, the US, and the core group have had a history of subjugating the people to, you know, to a sort of lifestyle that is really, really decadent and that does not seek to uplift them. The Haitian people are aware of that. They know that the United Nations and the United States and the core group do not have their best intentions at heart. As is, as a system, they do not have the Haitian interest at heart. They are aware of that. They are not that stupid. They're not stupid at all, right? And people remember, they have memories, and they understand that the United States has been invading that country since 1915, on and off, and is responsible for almost all, if not all, successive presidents and prime ministers that have been elected. So they have not been elected by the people for the most part. They have been elected by foreign external forces. And that is sad, because that is not what democracy should be about, right? Because we know that democracy is for and by and of the people, and not of the oligarchy, not of foreign forces, of the people. And in this context, it is the Haitian people. Now, this is what the journalist or the writer of the piece here, taken from the Trinidad Express, is suggesting here. Things have fallen apart so spectacularly in Haiti that as of yesterday afternoon, the whereabouts of Prime Minister Ariel Henry were unknown. So in this newspaper, or from this writer, it is unknown where President Ariel Henry is. I found it a little bit coincidental that Jamaica is having a meeting of CARICOM, an emergency meeting of CARICOM on Monday. And they've just recently had that CARICOM meeting in Guyana. So why Jamaica? And why are they having that, emergency meeting there? Why couldn't it have been in Trinidad? Or, well, I guess because Jamaica is closer to Haiti. Perhaps that's the reason they're holding it there. But my question is that I understand that Ariel Henry will have to travel there. He's going to be a part of that meeting, the emergency meeting of CARICOM that will be held in Jamaica this coming Monday. So my question is Ariel Henry in Jamaica already for the meeting? I am not sure. Has he always been there? That's a question that will not be, I'm sure, answered, will not be given any satisfactory answer, due, I'm sure, to security reasons also. Now, Henry had left Haiti for Kenya, where he secured a promise of Kenyan peacekeepers under United Nations auspices to reestablish law and order. Armed gangs now effectively run things in Haiti. So the armed gangs are running the show. And that is something that is very, very interesting and should be worrisome, all right, and should begin to be of grave concern to those of us who live in the world and the Caribbean region. Now, we have here gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, nicknamed Barbecue, made it clear that the gangs were committed to removing Henry from office. So it is very clear. The United States understands, the core group also understands, and the United Nations also likewise understands that the Haitian people are not desirous of having Ariel Henry for their president or prime minister. That information is clear. And I'm wondering, why is it that the United States is insisting that Ariel Henry form this coalition when they understand, the officials in the United States and also in the core group understand that the civil society, the Haitian people, the majority are not desirous of having Ariel Henry. On Sunday, gang members stormed the country's two biggest prisons and let out 3,700 inmates. At least 12 people were killed. It piled on existing pervasive armed violence, and the government declared a 3-day state of emergency. You already know that. So what I like is the analysis coming from the writings here. And he says here, the unyielding lawlessness in Haiti isn't only evident in gang control, it's present in the country's constitutional governance. Henry lacks electoral legitimacy as Haitian leader, having been appointed PM by Moise 2 days before Moise was killed and before Henry could officially replace Claude Joseph as PM. In order to fill the leadership vacuum at a fraught and uncertain time for the country, a group of prominent diplomats called the Core Group backed Henry's installation as PM 10 days after the assassination. Since then, he sort of followed upwards into the roles and function of president without officially being head of state. Henry effectively holds the country's two most powerful offices, but doesn't have a mandate from the voters for either one. And this is what I have been asking. How does he hold a mandate for two offices, and yet he is an unelected official? This is something that is, it boggles the mind, something that is mystifying, something that is bizarre. And the officials need to help us understand, how is it that an unelected official can be responsible and can hold a mandate for the two highest positions or offices in the land? This is something that is very interesting. Elections have not been held in Haiti since 2016, and that is something that is interesting. I thought it was 2019, but here, this writer, it says that elections have not been held since 2016. And, we had COVID-19 and stuff like that, so I'm sure that, yes, and if you remember carefully, in 2019, there was also eruption of violence there, and so there could not have been any elections held. Afterwards, we had COVID-19 and the world was shut down, etc., etc. So we have, under a political deal, Henry had been due to stand down by February 7, but planned elections were not held and he remains in office. This was the office that confronted CARICOM leaders and partner governments, France, UK, the US, Canada, and the United Nations at the CARICOM summit in Georgetown last week. So these are the people, these are the institutions that were, and the countries that were represented at the CARICOM meeting last week in Guyana. You had France, the UK, very interesting, the US, Canada, and the United Nations, right? So all of these countries and institutions, right, multilateral institutions, were in Georgetown at the last CARICOM summit. And for those of you who do not understand, CARICOM means the Caribbean Community, and it is made of a block of about 15 Caribbean nations that, understanding that they're so small, They joined forces together in the 1970s to form a bloc so that they could negotiate. Haiti became a part of CARICOM, I think, in 2000, was it 2003? Thereabout, that they became a bona fide member of CARICOM. And that still is not yet ironed out very well. We don't know what rights they have. It is just by name that they're a CARICOM member, but it doesn't seem as if they have any, what should I say, established presence, in CARICOM. It doesn't seem so. Do they even have a position in CARICOM? Because I know that the leadership is rotated among the different Caribbean regions. So you have Jamaica. Right now, the leadership is in the hands of Guyana, but it's done on a rotation basis. So, but I've never heard any time in which the Haitian president or prime minister was the leader or the head of CARICOM. Now, that is something that is very interesting. So we have dead bodies could be seen on the streets of the capital at the weekend. Thousands of ex-inmates, many of whom had been jailed for murders, are on the loose, right? So they're on the loose. These are people who are very dangerous and can pose serious threats to the civil society, particularly women and children. And you wonder if this is what is going to be the future of many of our cities in the West and around the world, that when we have serious outbreaks of crime and violence, that we might have the prisoners being released, and then we can have a